Good afternoon, friends. Michael Albrecht, the Naked Historian here. Last night I did a live Facebook chat about the Confederate soldier during the Battle of Spotsylvania, in which I read a series of letters written from the soldiers who experienced the battle firsthand. Unfortunately, the resolution of the video was not up to par. It was a little bit blurry, and the lighting was a little off, and I didn't feel that it was professional enough for me to post online. So I am reshooting the video, sitting in my kitchen right now, with hopes that the resolution will be crisp and the video will look good, and I will be able to post it online. I'm using a different laptop right now, so it should be resolved. Let's begin. This evening, I want to present the Battle of Spotsylvania with the actual words of those who experienced it firsthand. The letters that I will be reading tonight are from the collection that I used in my book, Campfires at the Crossroads, The Civil War in Spotsylvania County. Most of them were found in the Fredericksburg, Spotsylvania National Military Park archives, and some of the originals are part of the collection at the Museum of the Confederacy in Richmond. In an effort to write home, these troops unwittingly recorded their own legacy. In essence, they, being the average soldier in the Army of Northern Virginia, played a vital role of newsman, similar to today's embedded journalist. My goal is the same that I had with my book on Confederate camps, to present an honest depiction of the Southern soldiers' wartime experiences, without relying on the romance and pageantry that sometimes infiltrates these types of discussions. Because we all know that it wasn't always glorious. In fact, it was more often than not anything but glorious. As a battlefield tour guide, folks sometimes ask me what sets Fredericksburg and Spotsylvania apart from other hallowed grounds. What makes them special? I remind them that if you visit the other battlefields such as Gettysburg, Antietam, or Manassas, you will see a giant equestrian statues memorializing the commanders at these engagements. Lee, Jackson, Longstreet, Meade, Reynolds, all stone sentinels, all dominating the landscape. But when you visit the fields at Fredericksburg and Spotsylvania, you will see no such monuments. In fact, the only statue you will see on the battlefield proper at Fredericksburg is the Richard Kirkland Monument, which depicts two common infantrymen. Spotsylvania battlefield is also vacant of these marquee statues. There are no sword-wielding titans to be found. So despite the fact that the most recognized officers on both sides of the war were present during these battles, it was the contributions of the common soldier that they chose to commemorate. And that is what makes our battlefields different. The grunts get the credit, and it is their story that I believe we need to share during this time. Now, the Confederate Army's time in Spotsylvania was not limited to this single engagement. You have to remember that this region witnessed four major engagements over the course of the Civil War, including the Battle of Fredericksburg in 1862, the Battle of Chancellorsville in 1863, and the battles of the Wilderness and Spotsylvania in 1864. So there were Confederate troops occupying the area throughout the entire course of the war. And directly across the Rappahannock River in Stafford County, over 140,000 Union troops remained stationed. From 1861 to 1865, hundreds of thousands of troops from both sides of the conflict marched through, fought at, and camped in the woods and fields of Spotsylvania County and the surrounding area. The National Park Service has christened the region the bloodiest landscape in North America, stating that over a 4-year period, more than 85,000 men were wounded and over 15,000 were killed. A number of exceptionally significant events also took place in the vicinity, including the first clash between Grant and Lee, as well as the first recorded skirmish between the Southern forces and U.S. colored troops. This battle from May 8th to 21st, also referred to as the Battle of Spotsylvania Courthouse, was the second major battle in Grant's 1864 Overland Campaign. Following the horrific but inconclusive results of the Wilderness, the Federal Army disengaged from Lee's army and moved to the southeast, attempting to advance on Richmond and lure the Confederates into a fight under better conditions than they had experienced at the Wilderness. Grant and Meade's movement stalled at Spotsylvania Courthouse on May 8th, and this allowed the Army of Northern Virginia, who was in pursuit, an opportunity to catch up and engage them. The result was a bloody 2-week battle that included multiple combats along the Spotsylvania front. The Union attack against the Bloody Angle at dawn on May 12th through 13th captured nearly a division of Lee's army and came near to cutting the Confederate army in half. Confederate counterattacks plugged the gap, and fighting continued unabated for 20 hours in what may well have been the most ferociously sustained combat of the entire Civil War. On May 19th, a Confederate attempted to turn the Union right flank at Harris Farm was beaten back with severe casualties. Union generals Sedgwick and Rice were killed. Confederate generals Johnson and Stewart were captured, and Daniel and Perrin mortally wounded. On May 21st, Grant disengaged and continued his advance on Richmond. Now that's the overview, but what really happened there? Our first recollection comes to us from Michael F. Rinker from Company F in the 136th Virginia Militia. This letter written to his parents. There is a longer letter when compared to most, and it does an excellent job of describing the typical action witnessed at the Battle of Spotsylvania. It reads, "Dear Father and Mother, with pleasure I write to you this morning, hoping you may get this in due time. I am well and hope you are well. I must ask you to excuse me for not writing sooner. Indeed, I am ashamed that I have not written ere this, but now I will tell you why I did not write to you sooner than I did. We have been so busy since we came over here that indeed this is the first chance that I have had to write. The second day after we arrived here, we commenced fighting, and it is not over yet. Father, indeed, for 5 days we were so busy fighting that we could hardly get time enough to eat our meals. Today it is 14 days since we commenced fighting, and yesterday the cannon and small arms were still at work. But the fight was not real heavy all the time. The hardest fighting was on the 5th, 6th, and 7th, and on the 9th, 10th, and 11th days of this month. During those 6 days, it was awful. There was one continual roar of thunder, all the time from artillery and small arms. For 6 days, the battle was kept up, all the time, day and night. In the dead hour of midnight, the cannon and musketry was thundering all the time. Column after column, the Yankees pushed their men up against our breastworks, and our men were cutting them down as fast as flies. The dead Yankees are heaped up in piles half as high as a man in front of our breastworks, and all around on the battlefield, the dead Yanks are lying just as thick as they can be, and none of them buried. They will surely rotten on top of the ground. Now you may know how it is down here. The line of battle is 15 miles long, and for 4 days the battle was kept up all along the line. The Yankee loss in killed and wounded is awful. Their loss will not fall short of 5,500 in killed and wounded, and their loss in prisoners will reach 10 or 12,000. We have captured 12 or 15 fine pieces of artillery and 6 or 8,000 small arms. The Yanks lost and killed 2 major generals and 3 or 4 brigadier generals, and their loss of officers, generally in killed and wounded and prisoners, is large. Their entire loss is very heavy, and I think it will be larger yet before the fight is ended. All the men say that this has been the hardest fight since the war. It was awful for about 5 days. The cannon just kept one continual roar of thunder day and night. I suppose you have heard of the number of killed and wounded of our company. You have also no doubt heard that General Jeb Stuart died a few days ago from a wound received near Hanover Junction. General Longstreet was painfully wounded on the second day of battle, but he is getting well fast. General Lee got a dispatch yesterday afternoon from General Breckinridge stating that he had whipped and routed the Yanks 2 miles above the New Market and run them to Mount Jackson, where the Yanks burnt a bridge. We are all glad to hear that the Yanks have been whipped in the valley. Noah is well. We have plenty to eat. Noah gave me the things that you sent to me, and I am very much obliged to you for them. I will try and bring something when I get home. Tell Mother I would like to have 1 pair of socks sent to me by the first one of our men that comes home. Write soon and give me all the news. I hope you will excuse me for not writing sooner, for indeed I did not have time hardly to eat my meals. We were busy all the time. Our men are still in line of battle day and night all the time. Sometimes they commence fighting at midnight. There is no telling how much longer the fight will last. Our men lay in our breastworks day and night. One night last week, the Yanks charged our breastworks 9 different times, and every time our men ran them back with great slaughter. If I can get time, I will write to you soon or as soon as I hear from you all. I will close. Your son, Mike. With these words, you can get a real sense of the rigors of this engagement. This was a marathon of killing that literally went on for days and weeks. I'm amazed at the promise that is proposed in this piece. Despite the desperateness of their situation, this soldier sounds confident that they will prevail. Our next account is from Walker Battle, an appropriately named chap, who was a private in the 4th North Carolina Infantry Regiment. As a member of Ramser's brigade, he saw heavy fighting at Spotsylvania on May the 11th and the 12th, and drove the enemy from the captured Mule Shoe on the 12th. He wrote the following. Our brigade, after we had charged and run the Yankees from their works, was not long enough to cover the line held by Johnson's division. So the Yankees held a position on our right, upon a hill which enabled them to keep up an incessant enfilade of fire upon us. 2/3 of the men which we lost were done in that way. Men were killed while squatting just as low and as close to the breastworks as it was possible for them to get. Tom Atkinson, poor fellow, was shot through the head, right by my side. Another man in Company E was killed on the other. The man in front was shot through the body. I did not realize then what a hot place we were in. It was a wonder to me that the last one of us was not killed. We were exposed to that fire for 22 hours. General Rhodes sent word to General Ramser he would send his reinforcements, but Gen R sent him word that he had taken the position and he was confident his brigade could hold it. All he wanted to let us alone and send us ammunition, which he did. I shot away 120 rounds of cartridges myself, 3 cartridge boxes full. That's 120 rounds fired by himself in a single engagement. Now, to get a feel for the amount of fire that was laid down during the battle, there was a sign on the Spotsylvania battlefield that marks the site of a 22-inch tree that was supposedly felled by small arms fire. The trunk is on display at the Smithsonian Museum of American History in Washington, D.C. Private Battle also wrote on May 14th that, "Last Thursday, though, is the day that we will be remembered by both armies as long as one man is left to tell the tale. At daylight, they attacked the line a little to our right, drove our men out of both lines of breastworks, and the result was hanging in the scales when our brigade was taken from one position and moved around in front of them. The stars and stripes were floating proudly all along our works when the order was given to forward without firing. We commenced moving up pretty briskly when our men commenced falling so fast that the order was given to double quick, no sooner said than done. We rushed forward with a yell and took the first line of works like a flash. We remained there long enough to fire a round or two and clear the way in front of us. When the order came to charge the other, we took that also with a large number of prisoners. Then the fight commenced in earnest. It was a continuous charge and a war of musketry from that time, 9 o'clock, until 3 o'clock in the morning, when we evacuated that line for another, which had been established and fortified during the night. There is not a man in this brigade who has ever forget that sad requiem which those Minnie balls sung over the dead and dying for 22 long hours. They put one in mind of some musical instrument. Some sounded like wounded men crying, some like humming of bees, some like cats in the depth of the night, while others cut through the air with only a zip-like noise. I know it to be the hottest and the hardest fought battle that has ever been in this continent. You would hardly recognize any of us at present. Everyone looks as if they had passed through a hard spell of sickness, black and muddy as hogs. There was no one too nice that day to drop himself behind the breastworks. Brigadiers and colonels lay as low in the trench and water as the men. It rained all day and night, and the water was from 3 to 6 inches deep all along. If it had been winter, the last man would have been frozen. I am too worn out to write anything of any interest. I am about half deaf yet, as is everyone else from the effects of the cannoning. My love to all, and believe me, your sincere son." So far we've heard from the enlisted men. For an officer's point of view in Spotsylvania, we can turn to the mapmaker of the Confederacy, Jedediah Hotchkiss, who wrote a letter to his wife Sarah on May 15, 1864. He writes, "Dear Sarah, I wrote you a few lines day before yesterday, immediately after our desperate battle, and hope they reach you. We have not had any fight since then, only a little skirmishing. The enemy has fallen back from our left, and we drove him back on our right. He is still lying between us and the river. Not we drove him back on our right. The daring attack and unwilling to retreat, his losses have been great, as we find many dead in the lines he has abandoned, many more than we have lost. Our loss has been far less than at Chancellorsville. 3,500 it is thought will cover all our losses since we started, and we have captured some 4,500 of the enemy, saying nothing about the killed and wounded. The Yankee papers say the loss 20,000 in the first fight. If so, they have lost 50,000 in all. Too large an estimate, I suppose, but not much, for they made 8 or 10 attacks upon our breastworks, where our men were defended and protected, and were repulsed with terrible slaughter. We are cheered today by the news from the valley, but saddened, deeply saddened, by the death of General J.E. Stuart, one of the noblest spirits in the Confederacy. Peace in his ashes, his memory is embalmed in the hearts of his countrymen, for he has done noble service for us. He has gone to join our noble army of sainted heroes above, Jackson, Ashby, and hundreds upon hundreds more. Heaven console his wife and defend her and his babes. How little I thought I witnessed their last farewell when I saw them at Orange Courthouse the other day. I first came back to camp. General Daniels has died too, a noble North Carolinian. Heaven has been merciful to us in enabling us to back the past that came at us like an army of locusts. But what a sacrifice have we made to propitiate the favor. I suppose we shall have to fight Grant again, and perhaps not far from here. But I have an abiding confidence in our ability to cope with him. By divine assistance, his army has become demoralized by his repeated and unsuccessful attacks, though he gained some temporary advantages and took considerable artillery from us. Yet his men know that he has made no advance towards conquering our army, and that he has made no progress towards Richmond. The time of many of them is out, and they are going home. The larger portion of his veterans have been destroyed or captured. May 16th, all quiet still this morning. We are in the same position. The enemy has gone towards Fredericksburg. We have had heavy rains every day, and it is very muddy. I have no time to write more. Love and kisses for you all, and may heaven bless you. Write often. Your affectionate husband, Jed Hotchkiss. He is confident, but you can also get a sense of the trepidation, which of course was warranted. Our next piece is actually a pair of letters that reinforce the tragedy of war on the home front. The first is a very brief note from Isaac Newton Cooper of the 3rd South Carolina Infantry to his sister that was written when he was encamped in Fredericksburg, with the latter coming during the Battle of Spotsylvania. Now the 3rd South Carolina was part of General Joseph B. Kershaw's brigade in the 1st Corps, under Major General Richard Herron Anderson. Retired MPS Ranger Mac Wyckoff, who I am sure many of you are familiar with, wrote an excellent bio on this unit titled A History of the 3rd South Carolina Infantry, 1861 to 1865. His letter reads, To Sister E.F. Cooper, give my respects to Minervy Cooper. Tell Sister Mary they must write to me. They must not forget me because I am so far away. Give my love to Brother Dave. Be good boys and stop swearing as it is a bad habit. Lieutenant I.N. Cooper. This was followed 1 year later by a subsequent death notification after Cooper was killed in action and buried at Spotsylvania, Virginia, on or about May 16, 1864. It reads, It becomes my painful duty to inform you that your husband, Lieutenant I.N. Cooper, was mortally wounded on the 8th of May near this village. It will indeed be painful intelligence to you and his children to learn of your great loss. He was wounded in the head by a bombshell and has been lying insensible ever since. The surgeon thinks he will die in a few hours. I was in hopes at first that he would recover and be to you and his country, but he is getting worse. He was a true friend to me and a brave officer and soldier who lost one of my best friends and his country a true and gallant officer, and your loss is greater than all. He was anxious to live through this war on account of you and his children, and he never lay down at night without praying for you and his children. So this letter was the equivalency of the yellow telegrams that wartime widows received during World War II. You have to remember that this one fight resulted in close to 30,000 total casualties. Estimated numbers of dead are close to or just over 3,000 Union troops and between 1,500 to 1,700 Confederates lost. The last letter I would like to share with you personifies the entire focus of my talk. Perhaps no other transcript in this collection better represents the sacrifice of soldiers who were encamped in the Spotsylvania area than this letter penned by Private James Robert Montgomery. Private Montgomery was a courier enlisted in Company A of the 11th Mississippi Infantry. On May 10, 1864, he was struck by a shell fragment while attempting to deliver communications for General Heath. As he lay dying from a mortal wound, he wrote the following letter to his father. Dear Father, this is my last letter to you. I went into battle this evening as courier for General Heath. I have been struck by a piece of shell, and my right shoulder is horribly mangled, and I know death is inevitable. I am very weak, but I write to you because I know you would be delighted to read a word from your dying son. I know death is near, that I will die far from home and friends of my early youth, but I have friends here too who are kind to me. My friend Fairfax will write you at my request and give you the particulars of my death. My grave will be marked so that you may visit it if you desire to do so, but it is optionary with you whether you want to let my remains rest here or in Mississippi. I would like to rest in the graveyard with my dear mother and brothers, but it's a matter of minor importance. Let us all try to reunite in heaven. I pray my God to forgive my sins, and I feel that his promises are true, that he will forgive me and save me. Give my love to all my friends. My strength tells me and fails me. My horse and my equipments will be left for you. Again, a long farewell to you. May we meet in heaven. Your dying son, J.R. Montgomery. So there we have several looks at the Battle of Spotsylvania as seen through the eyes of those who were actually fought and died there. Their words serve as a valuable reminder of one of the darkest events in American history. I hope you've enjoyed my presentation. It has been very pleasurable for me to have an opportunity to share these letters with you. If you have an interest, feel free to PM me or contact me via my blog if you have any questions or comments, and I will get to them as soon as possible. Thanks for viewing, and God bless.